Okay, good. So now we go to the software that I already published, okay? And on the client side, mostly on the client side, and we will try to implement what we saw until now, okay? So now index not needed, and let's start with app, okay? And actually, I must tell you, I already implemented a few things, like, for instance, you see the out component, okay? Out components file. Out components file contains what? Login form, okay? It's just a form. So, I mean, I don't think it's necessary to spend time in implementing a second form, okay? Username and password, it's a controller form, so we have a state for React. I already filled in something, especially in development is very convenient, so I don't have to type again username and password when I try the form, okay? Also for the exam is fine, as long as then you can edit the form, but I mean, if you do things correctly, you should be able to do everything. I mean, you should be able to edit the form. So, there are two form controls. One is type email, the other is type password, just because I decided to use an email, otherwise text is fine, okay? On change, set username, set password, event target value, and so on, okay? Two buttons, one is type submit, and the other is type nothing. So I just, as an event handler, on click. And you remember that we have the route, so navigate slash, okay? Go back to the root of our web application, that's fine, okay? Because I want to put this form under a new route. I think it's a reasonable option, okay? Of course, we learned about the router, client-side routes, because we want to be able to separate views, right, in an easier way. I think 99.9% of the students arrive at the exam with a route for login, which is pretty reasonable. And I recommend you to implement the login form in this way, but just because it's easier, right? Otherwise, you need a state to show a form and so on, okay? But others come also with the possibility to log in on the top bar and so on, but I mean, no need for these things. Okay, so there is also an error message state, so I can show some errors in case. And these errors will come from the server, okay? I don't have any, no, invalid content from the in the form, so it comes from the client. Sorry, okay, it comes from the client, okay? So, I mean, you can use the message of the slides, or, I mean, there's something wrong with the username or password, okay? Here the check is just username and password are not empty, okay, that's reasonable, right? And yes, do login, but then we need to see what happens, okay? We need to see how do we implement the do login and so on, okay? So this form, actually it's a form, it's already available, right? So so we can add a route and see the form. Okay, so login form, it's a component, it takes some props and so on. It returns a container with the form and so on, but I mean something that can be seen. So let's try. How do we add this route? Well, there's only one place where we can add routes, right? So it's in the return of the app. I would recommend to add a route at the same level as the others, okay? I mean, in principle, you can even add it below slash, but I mean, I think it's clearer from the point of view of, you know, having a clear idea what you're doing, that the login is separate from the rest of the action of the application. That's why I like it to have it separate. Okay, so at a different level, at the same level of the other routes, which are not nested. Also, if you nest it, you have the menu plus the top bar, the bottom bar, and so on, so the layout. If you don't nest it, you lose the layout, but maybe it's good for the login. Okay, I think it's good. I mean, I'm trying to balance, let's say, the need for showing you something different with the showing you something reasonable in terms of interface. Okay, so let's try to do this route outside the others, so without using the layout. So path login, element, login form. Let's see what we need to do later. Okay, login form for sure needs to be imported. So needs to be exported, login form, and at a certain point needs to be imported. Okay, import login form. Save. Okay, I missed something. What did I miss? Has already been declared. Login form. Ah, I already imported. Okay, doesn't matter. Sorry. Okay, so it was already there. Let's see what's missing or if it's working. Okay. Okay. So how do I see if it works or not? Well, when you are debugging, I mean, you can even try directly typing URLs. We will not do it at the exam, okay? Just for debugging, okay? I think you can do it. Of course, I mean, the component doesn't need to have states and so on that you didn't load, because otherwise, if you try with other routes like /edit /something, it doesn't work, because you immediately load the application from the server and you don't have the state. You didn't keep the state, okay? But I mean, login doesn't need to keep any state. Everything is initialized inside the login, so we can test it like this, okay? And you see, I mean, it works. It's a form, and login and cancel. Cancel, we said it's navigate / click, that's fine. And by the way, I already prepared the button here, okay? So I already modified the header with a button as /login, okay? Because I knew I wanted to have /login. Okay, so let's try to log in, but I don't think, not sure it will work, right? I mean, not sure what happens because we still need to implement a number of things. In any case, it's a form. It has the possibility to submit something, okay? So we submit it and we see the code here was, the code said there is a handle submit, do login with the credential, which is username and password, and do login is here. API login credentials, and then user props login success. So we didn't set the props, right, yet. But I mean, just for testing, it's fine. Login is just an API I added to API.js. So again, I mean, I already modified the API.js. It's quite mechanical, copy pasting from other URLs that you need to call on the server. Okay. So here it's fetch. We say /API /sessions post credentials include. Don't forget the credentials include. It's a very common error, but if you are in the lab, we can help you, okay? That's a typical error. When you add the authentication, you forget about the credentials include. So the cookie is not sent, and the cookies, you don't get a cookie, and then the next course don't work. Headers, content type, application JSON, body stringify, credentials, okay? These credentials, which format do they have? Well, actually, whatever you want, but because it depends on how you wrote the server, right? So, where is the server here? Is this? Oh, sorry, I'm showing you the wrong file, but it was the same actually. Having the solution to get with the same name is not a good idea. Anyway, API, okay? Server, here, index. And I think we need to search for sessions, right? Okay, what's the format? The format is login, and we need to pass user. No, the format is, that's important. Authenticate, expect you to have two fields, okay? This username and password, I think, if I remember correctly, okay? Yeah, that's inside the passport and so on, but I mean, we don't want to go inside the library. Okay, so if you look at the documentation of password, it wants to have this username and password that we set here. Username equal to the username and password equal to the password that we want to use for authentication. Okay, so just try, let's try. Okay, so let's press the button with the network tab open. Okay, post, you see the request. This is JSON, username and password, okay? We sent the request, we got 200 okay. So actually the server authenticated us. So I created the session ID. There's just something that we need to fix on client, like, you know, the prop was undefined. So that's the reason why we get this error. But I mean, let's have a look at the headers, okay? Request, I think there's nothing special to see, but in the response, you say access control allow origin, HTTP localhost 5173, access control allow credentials true, okay? That's the effect of the configuration we say to modify on the server, okay? So in the pre-flight request, the option, you get this header, and so the browser is safe if it sends the cookie to this server, okay? Even though it's a cross-origin request, because it doesn't come from 5173, okay? Good. So, I mean, we say that, I mean, at login time, we don't have a cookie to send, but we need to set it in any case. And let's see the response. Good. Set cookie. Okay, you see the cookie, this has been created by the server, okay? It created a session, and since we didn't do anything else, passport by default using a passport plus expert session, by default create a session using the cookie, HTTP only, you see the attribute and so on. And you even see it here in the cookie tab, okay? Because it's so important, I have made a tab specifically for cookie. Okay, so that's a name, connect.seed. I mean, that's a name that Passport and Expert Session decided to give to their cookies. That's a value, pretty long random string. Okay, and the path, slash, because we started from slash, and HTTP only. Okay, we can even see this cookie in the storage. Yes, here. Okay. Cookies, HTTP localhost 5173, okay? Connect ID, and that's it. Oops, why it doesn't move, I don't know. Well, that's the storage, the browser storage for the cookies, okay? So you can see the cookie, the value, the fact that is a session cookie, so it has no expiration, and basically it will, I mean, it will not expire, but it will become invalid when on the server it will not be recognized anymore. So when we restart the server, or we stop the server. Okay, so this is the cookie storage, okay? There are other cookies, probably because, I mean, there are other applications running on the computer, including Vite, that is doing a lot of things under the hood. Okay, good. So let's fix this issue, okay? Wrong username and password. Actually, that's not the answer we should get, because post was successful. You see 200 OK, right? So let's finish the implementation. So props login successful. Actually, this created an exception, catch, set error message, and so on. Just remember, when you have a runtime error in JavaScript, if you are inside the try catch, it goes to the catch, even if it's a then catch of a promise, okay? Because it creates an exception, and from the point of view of the promise, it's like a rejected promise. So that's why we go here. This is a thing to know when you debug, because otherwise you don't realize why you're going there. I mean, nothing is wrong here, right? I mean, just because we are calling a function which is undefined, because login successful was not defined. Login successful is a props, so it comes from up. So, I mean, the suggestion was correct, right? Login successful. No, login, yes, login success. But we need to implement it, right? So what are we going to do once the login is successful? It's there. Const login, sorry. Const login successful. I like to write successful. I mean, successful, I think. Right? It was successful, right? Successful. AI is good, but I mean, can still improve. Full. Yes. Okay, I cannot say because, I mean, we need to finish the implementation of this function. Okay, what do you do here? I mean, we got some information from the server, right? Let's have a look. I mean, don't care about the error, but let's have a look. It's still there, right? Response. We got a JSON from the server. ID 4, username and name. Let's store it. Store it in the application. Where do you store the response from the server? In a state. Right? Let's define a state, and then we use it. Okay? Set user. I mean, I will go. Oops. User. No navigate. And then we have a list of states, right? Const user, set user, use state, null. Yeah, that's good. Undefined. I mean, that's just my personal preference because it's undefined dot something, but null dot something is the same. Okay, so you cannot use it. User. Okay, so we have the set user, good, and then, I mean, in principle, we don't have anything else to do, right? So we could try what happens, okay? So let's start again. Okay. So we started from slash login, click, note that I clicked on login, that's a client route, so it doesn't create a request towards a server. Click on login, post, good. Okay, at least it didn't give us an error, right? The point is that now do we have the user set? Yes, it's there. Okay, great. And now we need to show something to the user. User means the one using the application. So typically, you don't see the login button once you are logged in. You see a logout button, right? You see like welcome Enrico, welcome dear first name, last name, and so on. okay? Things like that. I mean, it's not strictly required, but it's very useful also for you for debugging and so on. Okay, so let's try to implement it. So I think we can convert this button from login to logout, and then write something like, hello, I think the user is Harry here, right? So set user, that's a state. We need to pass this state to the header. My header, actually, I did some tricks, right? Yesterday or the day before. Props user, username, and so on. So it's already there. It's already ready because I have a button whose name is logout and so on. It's ready, but I need to pass the user as a prop. Okay? So my header, now I have the state, right? So where is it? Routes, that's the main route, so it's answer route. No, it's a layout, right? A layout has the header, right? So layout, user, okay? Let's double check the layout passes it to the user. No, it doesn't pass it, indeed. User, props, user. We need to pass it, okay? Either it is a context available to anybody, any component in our application, and then we do use of the context, and we have the information. Otherwise, we need to pass it as props. Okay? Here it is. Harry, signed in as Harry, and the logout button. Because we set the property, and we designed, of course, a component in a way that depending on the fact that props user is set, it renders in a way or in another way, okay? So navbar and so on, and the button, either the button with logout or the button with login, okay? Button with login, it's a link, it goes to login. The button with logout, it will call props logout, which is not yet passed at the moment, okay? So not yet implemented. Okay, good. So we have a login now, and it's mostly working. Okay. Then, what can we do? I think there was something not really correct before, right? So let's try again. Well, at the moment, we are not logged in, right? But, I mean, these buttons can be used, right? I mean, that's not really good, right? Click. So, I would say, I would try to have an interface that has that is coherent with the login or logout state. Okay? So, I would say, what is the most logic way in which we can implement this interface at the moment? I think if we are logged in, well, the add should be enabled, otherwise it's disabled. And then we want to be able to delete and edit only the information that belongs to us. You saw, I mean, we are Harry in terms of the logged in user. Okay, now it's not available in app because I reloaded the application. And the other actions, well, the other actions delete and edit for other users. I mean, until the other users log in, I think they should be disabled, right? Upvote, downvote, well, that depends on the specification. We don't have specification, so basically the specification currently it's me talking to you, okay? And I would say for the moment, let's say, I mean, not for the moment, till the end of the course, we will leave the upvote and downvote free for everybody, so no need for login. So you can see some actions, even from an authenticated user that can be performed by anybody, regardless of the authentication status. So we don't put the is logged in and stuff on the server side, okay? So that's what we want to achieve. So this is blocked, and the delete and edit are blocked, all blocked if nobody is logged in, and blocked if they don't belong to the user, even if the user is logged in, okay? But that's just stuff on the client side, okay? Validation has to be performed on the server side in any case, regardless of what we do here on the client, okay? This is just for designing better interfaces, and I will say, if you really want to speak very clearly for the exam, just to show you that you can handle states and stuff very well in React for the exam, okay? I mean, so you change the state and things get enabled, disabled, and so on, depending on the state indeed. Okay, so let's try. Okay, so we need to have a mechanism to enable and disable. Well, let's start with the simplest one, the add button, right? There should be an add button somewhere. I think it's at the end of the answer components. Answer table, no, it's not here, sorry. It's, I don't remember. Let's search. Add answer, right? Add an answer. That's what I will do at the exam, okay? Because I will search in your code, I don't know your code, okay? So I will search in all files in the project. Okay, so it's here in main. Okay, I cannot really disable a link. So remember, when you have to disable a button that is created in the form of a link, because when you click on the button, you want to navigate to another place, you have to transform the link into a button and use the navigate function given back by use navigate hook. Okay, so let's transform it. I left it here just to tell you this story about the link. So a button on click. First, let's restore the old behavior, right? Navigate. What was it? Navigate on /add, I think, right? Save. Navigate has to be defined. Const navigate, use navigate. I think we need to import it. Maybe it's not yet imported. Not use navigate. Save. Go back. Okay, so now the behavior is the same, okay? I just changed the fact that it was a link, and now we have an event handler that does navigate, okay? And so we can say, okay, disabled, okay? And write a condition, add an, no, what's the name? Add an answer, yes. Isn't it up? Yes, should be. Main. Oops, I don't have the same solution. It doesn't matter. What is add here? Well, anyway, so props disabled. Yes, okay, it's prop disabled, that's fine. But then we have main. What is main? Main. Disabled. It's not disabled, but I mean, user, if user is set, I will say false, otherwise true. Okay? Oops. Let me make sure it works. No, no, it's not unset, so user. Yes, main. We need to, no, oops. Disabled. Okay, main. That's why it's useful to have a context, right? Main answer disabled user, right? User should be here, right? It's an up. I'm editing the wrong Too many things open, sorry. Let's go back here, up. React QA login, no. This one. I was editing the wrong file as usual. That's why I didn't find the correct stuff. Well, anyway, button, sorry for losing your time. Button, yeah, on click. Luckily the AI is helping us a lot. And disabled, props disabled, and this is answer route, right? Answer route is here. That's why it didn't match with that one. It was an older file. Disabled. Here it is disabled. But I mean, yes, we already have a state disabled. I don't like it. We pass the user here. Because this is the answer route, right? User. We can pass the user. I mean, we will use the user later in the answer route, in the answer list, to decide which button we need to enable and which buttons we should not enable. Disable was here for disabling buttons when we do operations with the server, right? From last lecture. User here. So let's use the user so it's clearer. Okay. So we go back to the button here, props user, false or true, right? I think it was like this. Add new, add an answer. It's not add an answer. Doesn't matter. Answer route, yes. Let's see. Okay, it's disabled, right? Am I in the right file? Yes, should be. Because it's up. Doesn't matter. Okay, so you see that it's disabled, right? Now we log in and it's enabled, okay? Things should happen because of the fact you change states in React, okay? So this button is enabled when the user state in React is set. It's not undefined, okay? It also means that if you click on logout, nothing happens, and now we should do the logout. And one of the things we should do is to reset the content of the user, right? So let's implement a logout. Logout, let's see, logout expects a logout function to be passed to the myHeader, but we need to implement it. So let's implement it close to the, here, const logout. Okay, let's see if logout is here. Logout. Yes, I called it actually do logout. I mean, I didn't make it async. Yes. Okay, await API do logout, and then we can do set user undefined. Okay. Otherwise, we can do API logout dot then set user undefined. Okay. But then also dot catch set user undefined. So maybe it's better to do dot finally set user undefined. Okay, maybe with the await it's more readable. I mean, again, just to show you some ways of doing things in another way. Okay, in a different way. One is done with the then, one with the await, and so on. Okay, so do logout needs to be passed to the layout, I guess. It's the layout, right? Yes. Do logout. Do logout. Okay? Good. Yes. So let's try again. Login. Add an answer. No, it's not disabled. Logout. No, it doesn't work. Did it send it? Did it send along? No, I didn't send it, I guess. Logout. Let's see the implementation. Yes. So why it doesn't start? Oh, live coding is nice, but I mean, it's always difficult to get it right? So, anybody has any ideas? Welcome. I mean, I guess logout button is not implemented in a way we expect in the app. Layout. Yes, from the layout we need to pass it. The layout. We need to pass the props again. That's why we might like a context for next year. Okay. Okay. Logout. Okay. So it was calling an undefined function. Maybe the console told us. No, doesn't matter. Okay, so you see it gets disabled again. Okay? Let's have a look at the cookie. Because somebody asked me before, right? Cookie is still there, right? But it's not valid anymore. Okay? So it's still there. And since it's HTTP only, we cannot really remove it by ourselves using JavaScript code. Okay? So that's the point. But it's a session cookie, so if you close the tab, you open another tab, it should go away, I think. Otherwise, I need to close the browser. Where is the storage? No, it's still there, so I guess I need to close the browser. I mean, but this was just a curiosity, but it's not valid on the server side, so, I mean, we don't really, okay, now it disappeared, okay? So it was valid until the browser was open. It was just in browser memory, it was not stored on the disk, okay? Okay, good. Okay, let's log in again. That's why I want to have the pre-filled in username and password, okay, because I'm doing it so many times. Okay, and now the cookie is there, right? We don't log out. I just reload the application. Okay, the cookie is still there. The cookie is still valid because I didn't log out. So for the server, it's still valid. Okay? This behavior is sort of annoying for most applications because, I mean, it might happen that you, for some reason, reload a website, right? Like especially google.com, you press enter again, or you reload, you go back and you do all these kind of things. So even though it's not really strictly required for the exam, I want to show you that at mount time of the application, just the application in this example, okay, but also for the exam, just at the mount time of the application, it would be convenient to check if the user is already logged in or not. So if it has a valid cookie or not, okay? So you don't see login here when you reload the application because you still have a valid cookie. But how can you check it? Because we said it's HTTP only, right? JavaScript cannot check it. We need to interact with the server, okay? That's a typical thing we can do at component mount time, in particular app mount time. So when we mount the application, okay? So let's try to do it. So we rehearse a little bit the use effect, right? I mean, there are simple use effects. So let's find a place to write this use effect here after the other one. Use effect. What do we want to do? Yeah, API get user info and so on. Okay, nice. I mean, the point is we want to do it at component mount time, so empty dependency list. And then what are we going to do? Okay, are we going to use effect? Are we going to ask the server? Okay, I mean, that's really basic code. I will change it. But I mean, we need to have an API on the server just for this purpose. Okay, because we cannot use the post with username and password. We don't have the username and password. Okay, and by the way, we don't want to create a new session. Okay, so most of the servers have this API. So post API session. Okay, the delete for destroying the session, and the get, we call it API session current. We didn't know how to call it. Basically, if rec is authenticated, okay, it just returns the rec user. Otherwise, it says unauthenticated. That's fine. Okay, very simple. But I mean, it's just the server that can check if the cookie that is sent by the browser to the server is valid or not, currently valid or not. Okay. So let's try. We still miss one thing on the client part. No, it's there, sorry. Then user set user, okay? And of course, the get user info has already been implemented. Fetch session currents credential include await response JSON and so on, okay? Let's see if it works. So let's see the network, okay? And we reload the application. You already saw signed in as, okay? Let's search for the request. Current, okay? API session current. You see the headers. The request headers, you see the cookie going from, this is a request, going from the client to the server, okay? Server recognizes the cookie because express session and so on as a memory. It goes into the memory. It says the cookie is valid. Okay, I will send you back the information about the user. And indeed, we will get back the information about the user. That's the JSON that we get back. We use it in the client to set the state. When? At component mount time. And this is up, so the main component. So it will immediately happen when you load the application, okay? And so you can load and reload the application and you are still signed in, okay? Very convenient behavior, not really strictly needed because we don't expect the user reloads the application several times or many times. We will not do it at the exam, just the first time, and only then if it doesn't, the application doesn't work. Okay, so hopefully we will not do it at the exam. But it's so convenient, so easy to implement, and so you know, good to show because it's a user effect, a component mount time, and so on and so on. That, I mean, it costs nothing to have it. Okay, and it's actually the behavior that most applications present to the users. Okay, good. So now to really log out, we need to press the logout button, okay? Or close the browser because we actually, actually, if we close the browser, the session on the server is still valid, but we lost the cookie. So it's like we lost the key. I mean, the door is still there, but if we lost the key, we cannot open it, right? Okay, good. So we should fix the other buttons, right? So let's log in. Okay. Oh no, this doesn't work. Oh no, this works. Yes. Okay. The other should be updated, right? So that's why I passed the user to the answer route. Okay. It's convenient because I mean, there are many things we can do with the user. Go to the implementation. User props user, I already passed it here. Answer table. Okay. And then we should decide what to do. Okay. Disabled. Disabled was to disable the whole row, I think. Answer row. That's answer row. But then passed it to the prop disable to the answer actions, which are the buttons. Okay. Am I editing the correct file? No. Yes. No. Again. Yes, this should be the right one, right? Okay. So let's make sure. Yes. So we need to disable these buttons, right? So, but how can we disable just some buttons? Okay, we need to adjust the logic for the disable depending on the ID of the user. Okay, and do we have the owner of the answer? Well, I don't know. I don't remember. We should check. I mean, that's part of the design of the application. And if you don't know, you should go and look. This is the state, question ID, respondent. We have a respondent ID. Actually, we didn't have it last times. Okay, so let's do a step back on the server. On the server, we have this respondent ID, and I wanted to show you the database as well. Okay, so actually, I had to modify the server because now that I have users, I want to have a database where answers are owned by a user. I cannot put a name. I need to put a key, right? A key that is the ID of the user, the respondent ID. Okay? And there is a user, of course, with the ID and so on. Okay? So, when I get the information from the database, I think it's question ID answers. Please answer by questions. You need to modify the query a little bit, okay? Let me have it on. I mean, just to allow you to read everything. I mean, I did a join, nothing really special. I hope you a join. You can do a join. I mean, so in addition to the respondent ID, I can get a respondent name. Okay, it's just a join between the table that has the list of answers and the table that has the list of users. Okay. Okay. So you need to modify a few things, especially for the lab. I mean, not tomorrow, but the week after the next one. Because, I mean, you're introducing users, so there is additional data on the server side, and you need to handle them. So, actually, coming back to our point, I mean, we have users. Is this the correct file? Yes. So we have user information when we are here in the answers, okay? And we need to just to define a logic that works in terms of, answer table, yes, property table, that works in terms of enable or disabling button depending on the ID of the user, okay? So I guess the best thing is to pass the user ID. I mean not the best, hopefully one of the best, but I mean the implementation I chose is to pass a user ID prop, ID property, props user is fit set props user ID, otherwise -1. I mean, you need to remember the fact that user can be undefined, because if we are not logged in, okay, your application should not crash. I mean, the JavaScript code running your application. So just remember to do these checks whenever necessary. So I pass the user, but if the user is undefined, if I write prop dot user.id, I get an error in the console log, but worse, I mean, the JavaScript stops executing code, so the application is not working because it crashes, okay? Okay, got it. User ID, answer row, that's this element. I think we can pass it, we can pass a new prop, okay, like disable user action. I like it because I want to keep it separate from the disable. That is the disable because I want to disable everything because of the fact that I'm doing an action, okay? Okay, so the code is, I would say, disable user actions. If the respondent ID is different from the user ID, I should disable the buttons, the delete and the edit, okay? Okay, I defined a new prop and now I use it. I think, upvote, downvote, and then I have the here it is, the button. A button was missing. Okay, delete. Okay, disabled. Actually, I already wrote it. I disable it if it is disabled or if it's to be disabled by disable user action. Okay? The other props I defined before. Okay? Save it. You see? Now, the buttons that don't belong to answers given by Harry are disabled. The others are enabled. Good? Okay? Just to tell you, of course, I mean, adding authentication, it takes a bit of time because there's additional data, additional situations you need to handle. Okay. But, I mean, we are doing well, right? Okay, good. Then, next step. Next step, I would say testing something, right? Let's add the answer. Well, text respondent. Add the test. Let me write something. Good. Test. Okay. Author. Harry. What was it? A, B, C. What did I write? I mean, what's the meaning of writing a respondent here? It doesn't make sense anymore. I mean, the respondent is the logged in user. It's really wrong to say, okay, the respondent is somebody else. Now I have an API that sent, well, actually, it sent Harry because, I mean, yeah, it took it from the right place on the client. No, sorry, that's a response, sorry. The respondent, ASD, AA, and so on, okay? So it doesn't make sense. We remove it, okay? I mean, when you design the application for the exam, probably you never insert it. Okay, we started from the beginning of the course. We had no users, so we had to write something. Okay, so let's change the form. Answer form. So there's no respondent here. There's no respondent field. So let me comment it. Okay, with this very ugly syntax of JSX. Okay, that's the form. ABCD add, ABCD Harry. I mean, I shouldn't say anything else. Okay, just a question to which I want to add the answer. Okay, because, I mean, the server is not supposed to know. But then the author is computed on the server side. And the author is rec.user. It's wrong to say that the author is somebody else. It's wrong to say respondent ID, send it from the client to the server and so on. If I see this kind of behavior in your application at the exam, I immediately question you. Why? Why did you design this API in this way? It's wrong. It's conceptually wrong. Okay? I mean, there is a session established. The only reliable place where you can take the information about the user is from the session. So there's no reason to say who am I as a parameter of the request. And if you do it, it means that, okay, you might have forgotten that, okay? But, I mean, if you didn't forget it and you thought I need to say I am the user number 3, it's wrong. It's not reliable. Anybody, any authenticated user can claim to be any ID in terms of respondent ID. So that's a security risk. I cannot take the information coming from the client. Okay? And indeed, if you look on the server, where you add the question, I think we already saw it today. Okay, create answer, answer, here rec user ID. Okay, I need to get it from the session. If it's not set, it cannot be not set. You wrote a wrong API because we put here is logged in. If you forget is logged in, of course, it can be not set. But it's broke because this is an authenticated API. You must make sure that this API gives you an answer and performs an action only if the request comes over an authenticated session. So it comes with a valid cookie. Okay? So it passes the check of the is logged in. Good. Also note one more thing. Before adding something to the database, that's another thing we check at the exam. I make sure that the question ID exists, okay? Otherwise, I add an answer to a question that doesn't exist. And I don't like a situation like this, okay? Because then I have a set of answers not connected to any question. That's a breach of the integrity of the database, okay? You can achieve this through code, JavaScript code, or you can achieve it through designing a correct schema for the server, make it the question ID a foreign key, and so on. So basically, the insert will fail if the question ID doesn't exist in the list of questions, in the table of the questions. Okay? The important thing is that you cared about this situation. Good. Let's go back to the application. So basically, adding the answer works. Right? Let's see the delete test. Okay, it deleted the answer. Okay, but I mean, deleting was easy. I mean, deleting has nothing really difficult. The difficult part is on the server. You must make sure that the user doing the deletion is the user that is owning the answer. Okay. Again, note that here delete delete only says the ID or the answer to delete. It doesn't say who I am in terms of logged in user. Of course, I mean, the logged in user is associated with the session. Of course, if I delete the cookie, okay, I can do this operation. I mean, just for trying, because we are learning, right? Storage, cookies, okay? I come here, I delete the cookie, send the request again, another delete, it will fail because the server doesn't recognize me as an authenticated user, okay? I mean, the stuff here still says I'm signed in and so on, but it is a client state. I didn't update it. I just, modified the cookie storage under the hood. So, of course, I mean, JavaScript doesn't know. JavaScript has no access to cookies and so on, okay? So now if the application is in an inconsistent state, I need to reload the application. Okay, so we start from a known situation. Okay, login again. Is editing working? I don't know. I hope so. 5, save. Yes. I mean, I don't really like, you see that there was no array set here. No, when I was doing the edit. Why? It's simply because I didn't update the state in a temporary way, in the correct way. So, but I would leave this for kind of homework. I'll fix it later, okay? Let's make sure that we did everything important here. We have the answers. Oh, yes, I wanted to tell you one more thing. You can even have a second state, which is called, no, sorry, this is the server, app. Okay, so React the state. Okay, it's not uncommon to see a second state logged in is set logged in. Okay, because sometimes you don't really need to know all the information about the user and so on. But I mean, that's more or less up to you, because I mean, as long as with the user information you know that the user is not set, or it's undefined, I mean, you're not logged in. It's defined. It references an object, a JavaScript object. It's logged in. That would be enough, okay? But sometimes, maybe for some reasons, you might want to have this additional state, even though I recognize it's a bit redundant. But since you find it so often in code and so on, maybe it's better to know why you find it, because sometimes you just need to know if the user is set or not. I mean, if the user is logged in or not. Okay, and of course you need to keep it updated. Okay, so when you log in, set logged in true, right? And wait, set logged in false. Okay. I'm not sure if it was set logged in true, false. What was it? Oh yeah, there was another place. The use effect. User. Set user, yes. Set logged in true, okay. Catch error getting user info and so on and so on. I mean, I don't really like this, okay. I would say no need to do anything. Why should say something? okay? I mean, that's at component mount time. Either I'm logged in or I'm not. Doesn't matter, okay? So let's have a look at the console this time. Okay, I'm logged in, nothing happens. Let's log out. Let's reload the application. You see this red stuff, okay? 401, unauthorized, and so on. You cannot do anything about this. You have to ask the server if you're logged in or not, because you don't have access to the cookie. So, I mean, you can write on the chat on Telegram. A lot of people will write on the Telegram and so on. I have a problem. This error shows up in the console. It's normal, okay? At component mount time, when you load the application, that's normal, because that's the only way you have to know if the user is logged in or not, okay? And unfortunately, Firefox decided that every time you get something which is not 200 something, it prints it in the console. So you cannot do anything about this, okay? Maybe this one could be handled better. I don't know where it comes from. I guess, yeah, I guess we should catch it somewhere. Yes, catch or, yeah, catch. So, it's true, we don't need to do anything, but I mean, I think I catch error, yes. Then catch, sorry, no. I implemented it with the await, it doesn't matter. HR empty. Come on. Yeah, I don't want to have exceptions bubbling on in the console, okay? Because it was a rejected no, it was I don't remember what does the get user info do. Yeah, it does throw, okay? It's an async, so it's a rejected promise, so I need to capture it with a catch. Otherwise, it bubbles up until it goes to the console, okay? But it's not an error, so I want to catch it, so I'm not confused about this. Okay, I think we did most of the things. Maybe the handle error, or maybe one more thing here. It's in app. After login, maybe you want to refresh the status. Not a bad place to do such things, okay? Maybe you arrived at the application, okay? You loaded the application, you stay there 1 minute because you thought about something, you log in, okay? Maybe it's a good place to refresh the state, rehydrate, as we said, from the server, okay? Because you have an interaction with the server, so why not, okay? You see at the end answers. Yes, get answers. Okay. Only last thing is the error handler. Here, do you really want to do something here? I mean, I will publish some code here, but I mean, I would say typically, if you handle everything correctly in your application, you don't have problems of authentication, because you only allowed the user to perform actions where the user was authenticated. But if you really are not, I mean, if you're anxious about the fact that some errors should be handled differently, here you have a place where you can handle errors differently. Like you get not authenticated error, you might want to check for this error here and do something like refresh the list because maybe something has changed in the meanwhile and so on. But this heavily depends on the behavior of the application. This application is so simple that every user can edit only its own answers that, I mean, no other users can, mess up with the answers. So I mean, errors here because of the sharing of the data between users should not happen. Okay? So I wouldn't waste time writing stuff here, but I mean, I will write something when I'm back in the office. But I mean, I think we did everything. I mean, we didn't test the vote, but I mean, vote didn't require any what's the name? Any authentication. So basically, voting is working as before. Okay, so we didn't do any modification for the vote. Either I'm logged in or not, nothing changes. Okay, simply last thing, vote. Simply, you see that what is? No, you don't even see it. I wanted to show you. We send the cookie, but actually it's a cross-origin request. So actually, if we don't write credentials included, probably it didn't write it, which is good. Okay, vote. You see, no credentials included, no cookie was sent, but that's fine. I mean, it's not an authenticated API. That's good. Okay, I think I did enough for today. Okay, so I commit the code. Unless you have any questions or comments, we will, well, you'll meet my colleague tomorrow in the lab, my colleague Antonio. Unfortunately, I'm not available tomorrow afternoon. And we will meet on Thursday for almost the last lecture of the course. Okay, we will speak about two-factor authentication, why, and so on. We will implement it. It's much easier than the authentication because most of the infrastructure is already in place. Okay, authentication is a bit heavy to implement. Okay, no questions, I guess. So thank you for your attention, and we'll meet on Thursday. Thanks.